GOP plans for Medicare, Social Security cuts. The Republican cries of anger during President Joe Biden's State of the Union speech when he stated that Republicans intended to cut Medicare and Social Security demonstrated a startling seeming turnabout for the party that had spent years trying to accomplish just that. Biden is not planning on letting Republicans off the hook and ignoring that past. The history includes proposals from President George W. Bush to privatize Social Security, a comprehensive revision of Medicare by House Speaker Paul Ryan, and the notion of letting those and other federal programs sunset by current Senator Rick Scott. Expect the lengthy history of GOP attempts to cut the well-liked entitlement programs for seniors to remain a politically potent weapon the White House expects to utilize as budget negotiations progress. The night before, Republicans heckled Biden during his talk, and he later added, "They sure didn't enjoy me calling them on it." In order to force Congress to approve funds for Social Security every year, Republican Senator Ron Johnson, who is from the battleground state of Wisconsin, headed there. Biden warned that Republicans will target Social Security and Medicare while delivering a speech at a union training facility in DeForest. He did this by pulling out a copy of Scott's campaign platform and quoting both Johnson and Utah Republican Senator Mike Lee. "When I called them out on it last night, it sounded like they agreed to take these cuts off the table," he remarked, alluding to the strong GOP protests at the State of the Union. He answered, "Well, I sure hope that's true. When I see it, I'll believe it." As Biden and Congress attempt to come up with a strategy for raising the country's debt limit by our deadline in the summer, the political shift among Republicans is taking place in real time and is helping to establish the parameters for the budget negotiations. Many House and Senate Republicans vehemently agreed during Biden's State of the Union address that cuts to Medicare and Social Security are off the table, with some yelling liar when he suggested they were proposing reductions. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has insisted that cuts to these programs are off the table. However, it's unclear what Republicans would want as they use the impending discussions to force federal spending cutbacks in place of entitlement cuts. They claim to want to put the government on a course toward a balanced budget, but doing so would be difficult, if not impossible, without making harsh cutbacks to other domestic or defense spending that Washington has proven unable to make. The president, according to Johnson, lied about the senator's strategy. In a statement released on Wednesday, Johnson stated, "I want to save these initiatives. We require a procedure to organize our spending and reduce our deficits. The Republican budget plans must be made public so that Americans may evaluate them independently," the White House has argued. That has not yet happened. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre remarked, "No more saying one thing and doing another. Let's find out exactly what they have in mind." As the country's population ages and more money is required to support Medicare and Social Security, efforts to slow the rapid expansion of the federal safety net programs for seniors have simmered and stalled for years. In fiscal 2022, which ended on June 30, mandatory spending on the programs amounted for approximately $2.1 trillion, or a sizable portion of the $5.8 trillion federal budget for the country. Both funds are headed for bankruptcy, and the total national debt is rising and is approaching the $31 trillion threshold. The Retirement Income Program, primarily for elderly, Social Security, was proposed to be largely privatized by the then-President Bush in 2005. Ryan, the creator of a Medicare proposal to move toward a private insurance option, was moved to the position of House Budget Chairman after Republicans took control of the House in 2010 and became the party's 2012 vice presidential contender. More recently, Scott, the head of the Senate GOP's political operation, presented his own ideas for reforming the entitlement programs for senior citizens. When Scott originally floated the idea more than a year ago, Biden seized on it right away, using it to characterize Republicans as extremist. In the midterm elections held in November, Democrats were able to maintain control of the Senate, according to White House officials. The president is keen to use this strategy once more as he prepares to run for office again in 2024. According to William Arnone, CEO of the National Academy of Social Insurance, a group that promotes Social Security, politically it was smart to tag the party with this image that this party wants to do away with Social Security. Republicans in the room responded by saying they had no interest in the notion. All federal spending bills must expire after 5 years, subject to congressional votes that might extend programs, according to Scott's 12-point plan. According to Scott's Rescue America website, Congress can adopt a law again if it is worth retaining. In a written response to the President's State of the Union address, Scott argued that Biden was lying and acting dishonestly by implying that he wanted to eliminate Social Security or Medicare. Does he believe I also want to abolish the U.S. Navy? The Border Patrol, perhaps? Or perhaps air traffic control? Scott stated a question. This is the false, gotcha BS that people despise about Washington, someone said. I have never supported reducing Medicare or Social Security and I never will. The Republican Party is trending toward what appears to be a public refusal to touch the entitlement programs, although some Republicans in Congress support Scott's sunset plans. Mitch McConnell, the head of the Senate Republicans, has distanced his party from Scott's viewpoints, and the Florida Republican failed in an internal party effort to depose McConnell after the 2022 midterm elections. A bipartisan trust act is being proposed by Senator Mitt Romney of Utah, the party's 2012 presidential candidate who selected Ryan as his running mate. The Trust Act would establish a rescue commission for the country's endangered trust funds with the responsibility of coming up with legislation to extend their long-term solvency. Romney's proposal, which is getting support from both Republicans and Democrats, is similar to the 2010 bipartisan Bowles-Simpson Commission's National Commission on Fiscal Responsibility and Reform. Two former Republican and Democratic lawmakers serve as its leaders. It proposed one of the most comprehensive revisions to the country's budget and entitlement policies to date. These ideas turned out to be politically unpalatable, and the Obama administration and many members of Congress swiftly distanced themselves. As Obama's vice president during the previous debt ceiling debate in 2011, Biden assisted in negotiating agreements to resolve the impasse. One of the concepts? A cross-party supercommittee to recommend budget cuts. It, too, failed to maintain political support, and the cuts were never fully implemented. That's today's latest news. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment so that this kind of thing continues.